Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Redmi Note 9 Pro versus the Poco X3 NFC. Those are two long names, but the Redmi and the Poco are made from the similar company, which is Xiaomi, and basically they have these two lines of phones from Redmi, which is the Redmi Note series, and then the X series from Poco. So we're going to compare the cameras side by side, and then the newer model is going to be the Poco X3 NFC. There's also other models that I will, try to get my hands on in the future, but we're also going to be taking a look at the Redmi Note 9 Pro from a few years ago, which has been upgraded to the latest software, MUI 12.5. So let's just take a look at the cameras. We're going to take a look at the portraits, video, and all types of photography, and just take a look at the pictures, but make sure you stay locked in. And if it's your very first time to the channel, if you're a huge fan of budget technologies, just like myself, consider subscribing and joining the crew. But if you're already part of the crew, salute.
Okay, so let's take a quick look at a first photo from the Redmi Note 9 Pro and the Poco X3 NFC. And on the right, we have the X3. On the left, we have the Note 9 Pro. Warmer colors on the Note 9 Pro. Sharper lines, it looks like, and more contrast on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. On this photo right here, we do have pretty good details on both. You can see the finer lines of detail on the Poco X3 on the right. It's just got more lines of detail, more pixels, more pixelated, but in a good way. Like, it's more pixel dense. But I noticed that the colors were a little bit brighter on the Redmi Note 9 Pro on the left. So both of these do have really good detail. When you zoom in, you will see sharper, pixels on the Poco X3 NFC, which is more gonna bring in more detail, and it's the newer phone. So when you compare them both in the portrait right here, you can see that they're both really good. As far as taking shots outdoors, they both bring in a lot of light, which is good, and you can definitely see that they both have some really good detail. But you're going to get sharper detail on the X3 when you zoom in. You're going to notice that the pixels are more finer, and the colors are actually a little bit different. The X3 tends to be a little bit less as saturated, so you will see more saturated colors on the the Note 9 Pro. As far as the colors, the water looks a little bit more blue, whereas the X3 looks a little bit more green. So just want to mention that as well when it comes to the water. And taking a look at these 10 times zoom in shots, when you were zooming in at 10 times, you can see that bird in the top right hand corner. We were able to capture the movement of the bird's wings while zooming in at 10 times on both of these guys. And there's going to be like a little bit more detail on the X3 compared to the 9 Pro. So as this one, you can see in the waves, sharper lines, more detail, and less noise when you zoom in at 10 times on the X3 compared to the Redmi Note 9 Pro. You can see that there's a slightly just more detail. But on this shot right here, you can see that we do have really good capture. We get the wide angle on both of these guys as well, 0.6. When you zoom all the way out, you can get the wide angle. And let's just take a look at some of the video on both of these guys, 1080 and 30 frames per second. You can see right here when we zoom in, you can see that the ocean is a little bit more, the colors are different as far as the ocean, lighter blue color on the Note 9 Pro on the left, and on the right we have the X3 NFC. And you can see when we zoom in, there's less noise, in my opinion, on the Redmi Note 9 Pro, and it's actually a little bit more stable on the X3. So actually the X3 has less noise and it's more stable. So I just want to throw that out there. But one of the things I noticed is that this shot right here has really good colors on the Poco X3 NFC when you compare it to the Redmi Note 9 Pro. So as far as the detail, you can see the sand is a little bit more detail in the sand and in the plants. When you zoom in, you can kind of capture the details of the leaves right here. So definitely compared to each other, I kind of like the the Poco X3 NFC as far as details and stuff of that nature. So now let's just take a quick look at these two cameras side by side when we're actually walking. And this is going to be 4K footage right here. So we're just walking, and it seems like the Poco X3 NFC has a better stability when we're walking, as well as zooming in is going to be a little bit more sharper as far as the detail. So I just want to mention that you will see a little bit more detail. You will also see better stabilization on the Poco X3 NFC, but both of these are very good when it comes to the quality. Obviously on 4K you're not going to get any stabilization on the the Note 9 Pro on the left. So I just want to mention that. And let's just take a look at the front facing cameras on both of these guys, and let's look at the video quality that we're getting. And it's very similar. It's extremely similar. The X3 seems to be a little bit more zoomed in, like has a more focus on your face. It's going to be more panned into your face, whereas the Note 9 Pro is a little bit more less closer to your face. But as far as the light, it seems like the Note 9 Pro was bringing in more light on my face when we were comparing these guys, because there was less shadows on my face and stuff like that. So I just want to mention that as well. So when you do a close-up right here of both of these guys, you can see the shadows are pretty much look the same. As far as the shadows, you can kind of see right here that the Note 9 Pro has a little bit better color right here. You could kind of see what's going on more down there. And as far as this shot right here, when you compare both of them, they look really good. The waves do seem a little bit more detailed on the X3 NFC, but then right on this photo you could kind of see that the Note 9 did a little bit better job right here capturing some of the lines of the waves. And on this shot right here you could see that the colors on the Note 9 Pro were really good. And let's take a look at the portrait right here on both of these guys. You can see warmer tones on the Note 9 Pro, and on the X3 you can see that it's like a little bit bringing a little bit more light right. Now let's do some video 1080 30 frames per second, and let's just zoom in at 6x zoom. And this is a close-up of 6x zoom, and you can kind of see how far in you can get when you're looking at both of these cameras and stuff like of that nature, right? So this is how the waves would look. This is how the water would look. And look inside the water right here, you could see a little dolphin tail fin sticking out of the water, which was pretty crazy on both. So here's a 10x zoom shot for both of the cameras, and I noticed that there was slightly little bit more detail on the X3, even though the Note 9 Pro did, it did seem a little bit closer up, but there was better detail on the X3. So I have to give it to the detail to the X3 when it comes to detail, but for the colors I'd have to give it to the Note 9 in some cases. But in this one you could see finer lines and finer detail on the X3, but both did a really good job. But you can see that the Note 9 Pro does zoom in just a little bit more, it seems like, when we're zooming in a 10x zoom on the camera lenses on the 64 megapixels on both of these guys. So on the front facing camera you could see that it was a little bit washed out on my face on the X3, and on the Poco it did a little bit better job facing directly towards the sun on the front facing camera. But on this one it did warmer colors again on the Note 9 Pro. On this one it did lighter colors on the Note 9 Pro and warmer colors on the X3 NFC. So give or take, they pretty much do capture really good photos on each camera. You won't really be disappointed whatsoever when it comes to these guys. So I just kind of want to show you another 6x zoom with the video shots outdoors, and you could kind of see the finer detail on the X3 on the right. It looks a little bit more finer, right? So when you could see me panning around and you could see the different colors compared to each other, next to each other, you could see that they both do a really good job at zooming in all the way in. And they both look really good, to be 100% honest with you. Finer lines on the X3 when you completely zoom in at 6x on the video camera, and on the portraits you could see right here more light was brought in on the X3, but then on here less light was brought in on the X3. So it's give or take depending on what angle you throw it at, right? But look at the colors here. You could kind of, this is where you can see that the Note 9 Pro does have some slightly better colors, but just better detail on the X3. So you can see the colors look really good. As far, they both have AI cameras, so what it's going to do is capture, it's going to basically optimize the lighting and change to the best colors possible with the algorithm on both cameras. So you can see right here the colors were slightly more bright and punchy on the rear camera when I was looking at the sun. But here's some shots of my face, and then here's another shot of the beach. You can see more detail on the sand on the Poco X3 NFC, where it's a little bit more blurred out on the Redmi Note 9 Pro, but better colors on the Redmi Note 9 Pro. But both of those do have the AI cameras, which do come into effect when you're looking at stuff like sunsets because of the colors, and even like flowers, you will notice that. But the finer lines on the X3 are noticeable and more vivid, and more pixels are provided on the X3 is when it comes to the zooming in capabilities of both of these cameras. Also, you're going to get more detail on the sand, and even on my face right here, you can notice a little bit more detail on the Poco X3, but the colors just look a little bit better on the Note 9 Pro. So let me know what your observation was overall with both of these cameras and how they do match up against each other. Here's another portrait of my face on both cameras, and I kind of like the skin tones on the Note 9 Pro, but then I like the details on the X3. So here's some more shots of zooming in really close, 6 times, 10 times, so you can get a better idea of how they look when you zoom in. And the Note 9 Pro did a little bit better on this shot, but as well as this one too. So it's kind of give or take which one. The colors are definitely better on this one for the Redmi Note 9 Pro. But let me know what you guys think down below, and I'm going to get right back with you. But every single like helps the channel, so make sure you subscribe and get notified, and click the bell icon so you never miss any more videos. And I'm going to get right back with you. And I appreciate you for staying locked in with me. And in the meantime, have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and depending on where you are, have a great night. Later, crew. Peace. I'll get right back with you.